Hello, everyone. We are starting another climate talk by Porto Protocol. Thank you, Miguel, Valentina, Rosa, and Zach for being here with us today. Today, we'll be talking about circular innovation in the wine industry. But as usual, because we have new people in the audience, before we dig into this topic, let me introduce to you Porto Protocol. We are an international organization created by Taylor's Sport, but today we have a community of more than 200 members spread across the wine value chain and across the world in different wine regions, from different profiles, different sizes, different regions, and we are all about being an inclusive community based on collaborative sharing. We have people at different stages, or companies at different stages of climate path, sharing with us what they are doing to address climate change. Ultimately, that's our goal, to build a platform, a live platform that becomes a network of climate solutions spread across the wine value chain. Now, I want to talk to you about, just mention, two projects of ours. We are launching a carbon management workshop that will be led by our Global Steering Committee with Professor Greg Jones, Diana Sace, Dr. Richard Smart, and Nuno Gaspar de Oliveira. They will be digging into carbon, both as a solution and as a problem, and they'll be looking at the whole carbon life cycle along the wine production. And before we dig into this topic, let me mention also regarding the circular innovation that a member of ours, Patricia Berardi from Textura Wines, which is a wine company in the Down region in Portugal, she's just launched a chapter with the collaboration of many of you in the audience. Many of our members collaborated to a chapter in a book, and the book is called Challenges and Opportunities of Circular Economy in Agri-Food Sector. And Patricia co-authored a chapter called From the Vine to the Bottle, How Circular is the Wine Sector, a glance over waste. So very soon we'll be able to give you more information about this book. Nevertheless, you can find the information online. Now, getting back to this topic, to circular innovation, we've been wanting to do this talk for a long time. I believe we started our climate talks more than a year ago in May last year in the middle of lockdown. And the fact is we've been postponing it for quite a while. And until today, we were unsure, how could we prove people out there, the wine industry worldwide, that circular economy is so much more than a concept, and it really is being used as a business model. And we have tested examples here today, and we're so proud to be able to share them with you today. And I'll start by introducing to you all our guests and why they are here. So I'll start with Miguel. Miguel is our host for the day. Miguel Cachão is an agricultural engineer at AVIPE. AVIPE is an association of viticultures that helps the Palmela region, wine region in Portugal, and helps a lot of producers, and many of them are tiny. But Miguel is so proactive, and he's been looking in circular economy as well, along with other projects, and how it can help the regional economy, if I'm not wrong. So not just looking at the wine industry, but how we could introduce the concept of circular economy along other industries in that region in particular. Then we have on my right, I have Valentina. Valentina is from a company that you might not have heard of, called Concha Toro. Maybe you've never heard of it. And it's an amazing company, most of all, for the amazing work they're doing in terms of sustainability. And the amazing thing is that everything you read about them, you realize that they really walk their talk, and they're so real. I mean, we had this conversation with Valentina yesterday, and it's so amazing to listen what they are doing to address and to really implement sustainability. And of course, the reason why they're here today is because they're bringing real examples on circular economy, of circularity in wine, and what they're doing with some of their waste. Then on my left, I have Rosa. Rosa comes from Caviro, which is the biggest cooperative in Italy. And she'll explain how circular economy is such a business sense concept for Caviro, and all the approach they have to their business. It's circular and it's holistic, and it's really amazing and you listen to the amazing examples that Rosa has to bring. And now on my right, below, I have Zach. Zach is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Good Goods, And he's going to an amazing venture as well. There are other partners, but it's amazing to see finally companies going to reusable wine bottles. Many of you know that the biggest carbon footprint in the wine production comes from glass bottles, and Zach is addressing it. But most amazingly, he's bringing experience from the food industry. He used to run a grab-and-go business with reusable containers in food. And so one of the things that we feel, and that's one of the reasons why we invited Zach, is that we as an industry need to listen and to learn from other industries. And so I think Zach is bringing a refreshed look into the business, into the wine industry, and we look forward to listen to that. So without further ado, Miguel, the stage is yours, and I'll come back in the end. Good luck, and thank you for being here.
Okay, Marta, thank you very much for your presentation and for the invitation you addressed me. Let me give you a warm welcome to all of the people that are listening us. Hi to Valentina, Rosa, and Zachary. To talk about circular economy is quite a new concept, you know. When we started to get involved in this concept was mainly because we were involved in a European project. And our first challenge was to explain to people what is circular economy. So let me start to ask to Valentina. Valentina, how did you in Concha Toro get involved in circular economy, and what difficulties did you face?
Okay, thank you, Miguel. For us, you know, being a Concha Toro works, all the actions that we have, they are around a sustainability strategy. And in the environmental pillar for the sustainability strategy, circular economy is one of the 5 initiatives that industry, and also they are only, I mean, they are not only relevant at the local level, but since we are exporters, we are exporters. So when we send products to the different markets, we are not only, you know, generating waste in the origin country, but also in the destiny country. So that's why for us it's so important to have, you know, smart materials that at the end can be recycled or can be reused in the destination in which we send the products. So that's why it's so relevant for us to, I mean, to manage that kind of that kind of product that for us maybe they are supplies, but at the final destination, they are waste. So, and the difficulty, it's mainly that one, you know, because we are today present in 130 countries, and different countries is very different. So we have countries and they are very advanced in which the law, if manage to manage all the waste and the past consumption for the you know, the consumers in just, for instance, in Europe or France, or Brazil, that in which we have to be responsible for that. But in other cases, in some other countries, you don't have that kind of support, so it's much more difficult to do that kind of initiatives or to implement that kind of initiative. So we have to, you know, work with at the consumer level in order for them to have this, to be conscious about the waste management in their destination or in these destination countries.
Okay, Valentina, thank you very much. Let me tell you that your network connection is not the best, but I think we got the message. Let me also invite everyone to read the sustainable report of Concha Toro, which is available in their website, and it's really, really interesting. And Rosa, hello, Caviro, how are you? The same question, how did you get involved in circular economy, and what difficulties did you face? Are they different from the Valentina ones?
In our case, the most difficult point is the increasing from the growers to the factory, because for the factory, the idea of circular economy was born when was born the factory in 1966, because for the founder, all the wasted don't have to be waste, but was most important the transformation in a new product for the market. In this case, for us, the most important point in the future is the message for the growers, because the transformation to a completely sustainable system is most important for the future. But in this moment, the system of circular economy and the transformation from the grape to the soil of all the part of the transformation in our food chain is completely circular, because we produce alcohol, we produce wine for the first, but also with byproduct alcohol, extract from grape seed, and a lot of other products, and finally compost for the amendment of the soil.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Let me also invite everyone to read Caviro's sustainability report, which is really nice and really deep. There's a lot of interesting things to read. Now I'm going to go to Zach. I'm going to New York. Hi, Zach. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, fine. And the same question: how did you feel the need to get involved in circular economy? You know, how does a guy from food industry feels this need? It was just a consumer demand?
Well, first of all, I think that I should probably stand with clarify exactly kind of what we do within the supply chain. So while everybody else here is producers within the wine industry, what we at Good Goods do is we're actually a service provider that enables reusable packaging, or in this case, the use of reusable wine bottles. And so we do that by creating plug and play solutions for the different stakeholders in the industry to make it very easy. Obviously, circular economy is very complex. We focus directly on the bottles, where I know that a lot of other people on this call, or the other panelists on this call, have a number of different variables. They're not just dealing with the bottles and the end of life waste, but they're also dealing with the byproducts on the farm. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background on kind of where we're approaching it at from Good Goods. However, we did come from a very similar background originally, in that we were a producer as well. We were producing food. In this case, we were producing grab and go food. And for anyone who's familiar with grabbing a salad off the shelf at the grocery store or anything of that nature, you are also familiar with the clamshell plastic, the amount of waste that is kind of created from that experience. And we launched our company in 2017, about the same time that China has stopped accepting the world's plastics. And so aware of the waste that we were producing on a day-to-day basis, and aware of kind of the issue that was creating around the world, we decided that we wanted to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. At this point, we did not have like a very well thought out business model for why we wanted to be in reuse as opposed to using single-use plastics, but we knew we wanted to do something. And so we really jumped into that venture as a learning experience for understanding reusable commerce. And what we've done since is identify kind of a consumer experience that is built around reusables, that we believe creates a business case where reusables are improve engagement, reduce costs, reduce waste at the end of the life cycle. And our goal right now is to make it as easy as possible for other producers to jump on board. So kind of a weird journey that got us into it, but yeah, we recognized it because there's an issue, and then as we jumped into it, we realized that there is more than an issue. There's a big opportunity here.
Okay, Zach, thank you very much. Staying with you, we received some topics that they asked us to discuss. One, they are regarding the bottle refill, cork stoppers, recycling, kegs, refill glass bottle, accessible for these at retail or on promise. What can you tell us about this? Are these any solutions, or they're just a dream?
So I think that you're already, I mean, refillable kegs are something in the wine industry that are already active in going in the US alone. It's been an active market for about 10 years. When you start talking about other reusable categories, reusable wine bottles, I mean, these were things that we did for hundreds of years, right? This was the norm. It's only been about like 50, 60 years where this has really changed. And so while the systems and the supply chains are no longer really around that support these types of things, it doesn't mean that they're not, the ability isn't there to bring them back and to do it more efficiently. And so bringing them back within a 21st century model, enabling technologies that connect kind of like a world supply chain to be able to make it possible, that's kind of the future of these different types of formats. And yeah, reusable wine bottles are going on. We're live in New York City with nearly 50 retailers right now, expanding to 100 by the end of the year, moving into new markets. So they're all feasible. They all have the ability to. Sorry, I know I'm skipping over a few of them. There was reusable, refillable, kegs,
reducing,
and yeah, I would say that all of these technologies are feasible and kind of at different levels in the development chain.
Thank you. One of the things that we have worked on the European project that we have developed and we started to get in the circular economy issues was to question the retails if they were up to have like a refill machine with several brands, and people just have to go there with their glass bottle and then refill it, and then they would have just a small label to glue it on the bottle, and then they take it home, and then of course they would return. Of course, this will bring some hygienitary issues, some needs to clean really well the bottle. But do you think this is a good idea to implementing, or do you think the retailers are not there up to implement this idea?
No, I think that it's a great idea. You've seen it in some parts in the U.S. It's ironic, and I can't talk to the global situation or in different countries, but it's actually illegal in the U.S. for tax purposes to actually refill an empty bottle in a lot of states, in the majority of states in the United States. So in the ones where you actually can refill, there's a few places that are doing this currently. It hasn't gained a ton of traction, but I think that you'll start to see more and more of it. I think refillables are bulk refillables are going to be something that gains a ton of traction here in the short term, and the hygiene of it can be solved in a number of ways. I think that you're seeing there's a company in France called Jean Boutet who has a great way of doing it, where you return the bottle, it gets sanitized by them, you grab another clean bottle off the shelf, and you participate that way. In other situations, it's where you're actually filling up your own bottles, in which they can actually, depending on the legal setup in those states, they can kind of move the liability onto the customer as long as it's not, or depending on how they set up that refill station.
Okay. So I'm going to invite everyone to read the reusable commerce that Zach wrote, the article that Zach wrote to the Porto Protocol website. And going back to Rosa, we are going deep to the circular economy on wine industry. I'm going to ask, so what products are you working on? You know that usually people just go to the compost pommes, to use the leaves on the soils, try to use all the stalks in the soil, turning everything back to the soil. Those are practices that probably farmers are using for centuries. But what are you really developing that is new, Rosa?
In that moment, the most important part is the valorization of all the part of our chain, because we obtain the wine and the byproduct separately come in our factory. In particular, in the Caviro extra, we obtain alcohol from the grape, and then we obtain tartaric acid, and then from the seed, the new part is the red color, and then the extract from the seeds. And in the future, we hope new different kind of product from the same byproduct. Then our valorization come from the biodigestion and then in production of compost and then energy. And in this part, we are going to complete the system of the recovery of biomethane. And in this moment, it goes in all the home nearby the factory. And also the CO2 recovery for the food factory and also for the pharmaceutical factory. I think we don't obtain a really innovation, but we our must is the knowledge in all part of our system in order to evaluate all and return in the soil with the compost and the fertilization with the same waste, but not waste of the same biomass that come back in the soil. And this is a value because in a large part of Europe, the soil in this moment is without carbon content, and all the type of amendment is most important for the future because the climate change is very high in our country. And in this moment, the quantity of carbon increase the capability of the plant in the stress.
Okay, and do you, how did you tell the board, Caviro's board, look, we have to go this way? What was their reaction? What were the real needs of investment? Was it hard to tell the workers, no, now we are going to do this? What was the reaction, you know?
Well, in my opinion, the first part of the choice of investment in circular economy is very hard because they necessity of a large amount of money, but also of a large amount of knowledge. And in this case, only with both this information, a good system in all the part of the factory, we can improve the system of circular economy. But the circular economy, in particular for the agronomic system in Italy in particular, but I think in all Europe, is a need, is a must in the future, because without this system, we can't implement the sustainability, and in particular the economic and the environmental sustainability, because the value and the competition in this type of work is so high in this period.
Okay, Valentina, I think you solved your internet connections. At least you turn off your video. It's always a good solution. So it's what can you tell us about Concha Toro circular economy practices? What products are you developing?
I also moved myself to a different place, so I hope to receive a better, a better connection here. And I will put my camera off for a little bit. So
I'm sorry,
yes,
Valentina. I don't think it's the best connection. Can you please try again?
Okay. So,
no, I'm sorry, Valentina. We can hear you really well. I'm going to give you a few minutes to find a better spot. I'm going to ask a question to Rosa that came from the topics that came from
Okay, so, I'm sorry. Can
not so well, Valentina. I could joke with you and say that you're far, far away from me. But yeah, while you try to find the. Okay, go on.
Okay. So let's see. I was telling you that every year the company generates 60,000 tons of waste. Okay. But the important thing is that the company today is managing
Valentina, we are really having some problems. Valentina, I'm going. Yes, we are really having some problems.
I mean,
Can you please try to find a better place? Okay, Valentina, we are going to wait you to find a better place. Okay, then we'll come back to you. I'm going to tell you now. It's my turn to because Porto Protocol asked me to be here as a host, but also as a guest, which is really interesting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the circular economy project that we developed regarding the wine industry. So basically, it was supported on an eco canvas model that we are trying to with the farmers to see what were their residues and how can they improve and they get valorized from those residues. For us, the circular economy needs to have valorization. You know, some just to deploy the residues on the soil and make the compostation. For us, it could be a good practice, but basically we don't face that as a really circular economy approach. So we tried to develop some sort of a map where we have the residues, the big residues, not the recycled ones, not paper, plastic. So we talked about the pruning residues, the stalks, the pomace, the leaves, and we tried to see what could be the best value for them. So regarding the energy sector, we can develop some pellets regarding the pruning residues and stalk, and then we can sell it. Of course, we can produce bioethanol and biogas. There are already several solutions, and not just for big wineries. We can also have that on small wineries that we use the food residues, the residues coming from the wineries, and then they can produce biogas, and then we can use it in our kitchen. For those of you who have enoturism, it's a good way to use that enogas. And sometimes the residue that comes from that biogas can also be used as a biofertilizer. So of course we can produce the compost, as I've told you, but also for about like centuries ago, farmers used to have the pomace and the stalks to feed their cows, their goats, their sheep. They can eat, and it's a common practice that still exists, at least here in Portugal. One of the really interesting things that we developed in this project was a close connection with an academic institution nearby our company, which they used the pomace to develop algae. So the idea was they feed algae with the pomace, and then the algae was going to be to grow, and then they were going to be processed for new food stock to animals. So that connection, and along with the other connections, led us to a new European project that was approved, and we are the coordinators, and we can talk a little bit later, which regards the CO2 sequestration from the wine fermentation. So we are going to capture that CO2, going to put it on algae reactors, and those algae are going to grow, and then we are going to develop food, cosmetics, and biocompost. We are also going to use the wine residues on that algae development. So it's like the algae reactor here is like a cleaning machine that can cleanse everything that the winery can produce and brings a new product so that the winery can sell it. Of course, CO2s from wine fermentation, they are much more than we needed to algae development. What we are going to develop as well is dry ice, because it's really important for musts and for the grapes while they are on the queue to get into the winery. And we are also going to bottle that CO2 because it can be sold, as Caviro also have this practice, can be sold to other food industry or even used to development of bubbled wine. So we can also develop cosmetics from the pomace and the leaves. There are several European projects that work on that. I also invite you to check on them. We have here in Portugal a company that really works on the distillery of the pomace and the leaves. Of course, this can be a really this could be probably the most common use of pomace and leaves all over countries, is to produce spirits. However, with this COVID-19 pandemic, they also produced sanitary alcohol, and then afterwards they saw that they could extract the seeds, squash the seeds, and produce oil, which is a food element, and we can have it. And of course, as Rosa told us, they can recover the tartaric acid, and there are probably, I do believe there are probably other practices. I even met a farmer here in Portugal from an island, which is a really small one, and which he developed a flour based on grape seeds. And then he developed some sort of biscuits and bread. Well, it was interesting. That's an idea. And I think we all need some challenges to develop these kinds of products. So Valentina, I think you're back. No, I think she's still an Atlantic Ocean far.
Yes, I am. Please tell me that I am.
Okay.
Back.
Okay, Valentina, can you please tell us on what products are you working on?
Yes. We have different initiatives. Today we are mostly, or since we already have 98% of the waste that we are managing by recycling, by compost, generating compost for the vineyards, and also reusing inside the same facilities. Okay, so I think one of the examples that I can comment is something that we did recently. It was last year, and it was about the use of the plastic material that is behind the labels. You know, the bottling process requires labels, and sometimes when they are the ones that you don't need to put some glue on it, but you can stick immediately in the bottle, they come with something that is a film using plastic. And it was very, it was very challenging because it's a different kind of plastic and it's not very, it's not easy to recycle. But then we started to work, and that's something that I want to say in recycling and innovation, and also in circular innovation. The collaboration is a key, is a key aspect that you have to consider. All that waste that we were generating, it was not possible for us to have some sort of use. So that's why we were working in collaboration with a cleaning, it was like a cleaning company. They elaborate products for the cleaning of the different houses, okay? Especially for, it's a ditch watcher that they were developing, and they were trying to look for packaging, sustainable packaging. So we created some sort of collaboration, and they use the material, the waste that we were generating, and with that material, they prepare the packaging for this ecological ditch watcher, and that one is something. It's something that you can see today in the in the supermarkets, and I think it's a good example of something that you can do when you connect the one problem for a company and the need for another one. So this was a very it's a very good. I think it's a very good example of a collaboration. And if you allow me, I would like to share the picture with you, which is right here. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see there, if you can see my screen. This is the ditch watcher, and it's actually made with the back of the labels of Viña Concha y Toro. So it's very, I think it's very unique. Because it's also it's a very good story about collaboration and companies which are completely different one to another. One that is developing cleaning products, and the other one which is a winery, and they are working together for in order to have the same goal, which is reduce the amount of waste that we have in the different, in landfills. And some other initiatives that we have around here, and this is also a picture. This is the something that we are doing with the organic material, with the organic waste that we generate in the cellars. Okay, so this is the organic. This is the grape that we dry the grapes after we take the juice. And all that material is finally, is produced. We produce a powder, which is a flour that you can put in in the pasta or in bread, and it is very, it's a very unique, and it's very, it has a lot of vitamins and different properties that gives all the different kind of food extraordinary enriching vitamins and proteins and everything. And this is another initiative, the one that you can see right here, in which we're using all this is also an organic waste that we are using. It is coming from the wine making process. When you use the filter, when you filter sort of, it's like mud that you can collect and also have a very nice color. So we are working with an entrepreneur, and they are using that material to put the color in different fibers, and they are creating this kind of accessories for the luxury industry here in Chile. So those are some examples, and I think this is I think it's a good example because you can see really applied examples of things that you can do when you connect connect different industries and also different opportunities and needs.
Yeah, so it's really a matter of partnership and cooperation.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know. So one of the questions and the topics that our participants wrote us to talk a little bit about was about the concept of regenerative and their practices and actions. How do you think they can match with circular economy objectives? Valentina, you can start.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear very well.
Yes, the question is, how do you think the regenerative actions, that is also one of the words of the moment, can match with the circular economy practices? How can they improve each other? It's some sort of a symbiosis, or what do you think about it?
Yes, I think this is it's very connected, because when you talk about regeneration, especially in the vineyards, you are talking about the capacity of the vineyard in order to provide less outside materials, and make the vineyard stronger in order to, enrich the soil or enrich the vines. Okay, so if we think about that, we will see in the future and progressively that the vineyard maybe in the future will not need the same amount of, fertilizers, or you will not need use or to control the vegetation between the lines of the vineyards, because we are going to use and we are going to plant different seeds in that part. So we will use less materials, which is the meaning is that we are going to generate less waste. So if we think that these initiatives are connected, we will see less waste generation also in the vineyards when we are including this kind of practices that make the vineyard and the soil and the vines stronger in the ecosystem perspective. Also, I think it's very important, the concept of circular economy in the vineyard, inside the vineyard. In our case, for instance, we have also an example. We are using all the, the plastic in the drip irrigation system, and we are using that kind of plastic to make bowls, plastic bowls, reusing that material to make the plastic bowls. And those plastic bowls, today we place them in the, in the pools for the irrigation system. So they are able to stop the evaporation of the water, and that's why they are able to avoid the evaporation of approximately 75 of the evaporation. We're able to stop it using this system. So we are protecting, or we are taking care of the water. We are using the material, which in some other cases could be waste in the vineyard, and we are using it to protect and take care of water. So if you think that way, everything is connected. And if you think connecting dots, you will have circular innovation, because one opportunity here is the need for the other one. So you will connect, and that's why I think that is the main idea behind the circular innovation.
Yeah, that's a really good message. So just before going to Rosa, I'm going to challenge all the participants to put on the chat their examples on which they are working on, if they are working on circular economy, on what kind of examples are they working on, because as far as we understood from Valentina, it's a matter of cooperation, at least see the other examples and try to implement. So Rosa, I'm going to ask this question about regenerative actions and circular economy. How can they match?
I agree with Valentina. The real match is the communication from the agricultural system to the factory and transformation until the consumer. But it's a new idea for our consumer, because they have to modify their habits, because the quality of the product is different, and all of us have to modify the system for the agricultural transformation in order to reduce the impact in the ecosystem. And this is the future. The first part, like the circular economy, is, in my opinion, I'm an agronomist and also a chemist. In this case, is the more simple part, because we are going to modify our system of improving of new process in order to recovery, transform without impact in this ecosystem. But the most important part, I think it is back to the future, because we are going, we have to decrease the impact in the growth in order to obtain the real regenerative system. And in this case, we have to come back of 100 years in a few time.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. So Zach, do you have any consumer asking for circular economy products or any products that use or at least have some environmental practices, not just organic ones, but if they have social awareness and social care of the from the consumers? So what do your consumers really ask for? What do they think about all this issue about circular economy?
I think that the consumer, it depends. You have your deep green consumer who is pretty well educated, and they are going to go leaps and bounds to participate in these programs. They're looking for these types of products, and they're, like I said, they're highly educated. And then you have what I would say is the vast majority of consumers, the remaining 90% of them, who are not very well educated in the space. I think that even when we're talking about it here, sustainability, circular supply chains, all these are very complex problems. And the key for us is giving the giving a consumer kind of an entry point into the conversation, right? So for these consumers, they want to participate, but they don't really know how to. And so by doing something like the deposit programs for our bottles, where they can bring it back and get $1 credit, it kind of gives them an intro into the conversation that's really easy to understand, because really they're bringing it back, they're getting their $1. But when they're going and talking to their friend or talking to another consumer, they're not talking about the $1 they got back. They're talking about the cool circular supply chain program that they used, and they're really starting that conversation. So for the extent of consumer demand, I think that it kind of starts from this idea of beginning the conversation, and then really like nurturing that consumer, educating them as you bring them through your consumer experience.
Yes, and well, imagine you're selling that bag that Valentina showed us. Was it hard to sell it if you're saying that was made from circular economy, from the wine industry, or do you think probably for 1 or 2 consumers they would be quite happy to see it, but most of them was just a fashionable issue?
No, I mean, I think that like sustainability has hit the mainstream consumer. I think that like the level of which they understand it is different, but I think that you see it in like the surveys. I think one of the ones people always quote is about 67% of consumers are willing to pay more for sustainable products, 77% of millennials, so it's like a growing demographic. I think that you can make that case. I think that the slippery slope that we fall down a lot of times is kind of what are the real promises versus the false promises. So what they've done with the soap bottle is really cool, because it actually is taking a byproduct from another industry and then using it into a secondary life, which is huge, because when you talk about recycling, even though it's like when you say, people talk about 9% of plastics get recycled, it's about 1% of plastics actually get recycled back into something that has equal or higher value of usage, right? So most of those things are getting downgraded into the recycling system, using like as the liner for landfill or something like that, where they have a secondary use, but that secondary use is it's done after that regard. So to the extent that consumers are willing to pay more for those things, that consumers want sustainable products, I think that's proven. People have seen it. That segment of the market is growing exponentially higher than kind of your general consumer products. To the extent that the consumer can understand what is greenwashing and what is real, I think that's kind of like the evolution of what's happening right in front of our eyes right now. The consumers are getting smarter. They're starting to learn what's real and what's not. Media is starting to track it more. They're starting to learn more about what's real and what's not. And so I think that next step in the green consumer is really this idea of true understood impact, as opposed to kind of more surface level, as people refer to as greenwashing.
Okay. And how are producers reacting to the idea of reusable? What are the main obstacles facing in a model like that?
Well, I mean, we chose wine for a number of reasons because well, so it depends on, I guess, let me ask the question back to you. Are you talking about you said how are producers or how are consumers understand it?
Sorry.
Were you asking how are producers responding to it? How are winemakers responding to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So we chose wine for a number of reasons that makes it unique and kind of why we think it's going to be the industry to lead reuse. And one of that is because it's already in durable, reusable containers. The glass bottle can be reused a number of times. It's not being honored as such in the current supply chain. So you're not asking people to change kind of the packaging that they normally have. You're not asking them to increase costs. You're just asking them to change the standards on which they're producing their products. So there's an opportunity for really wide scale adoption within the industry. The second is that it's pretty highly standardized in that for the most part, you can transition people to more standard formats to allow for the efficiencies without really taking a ton of time for R&D and research and changing of the supply chains. For instance, I think when Haagen-Dazs tried to change over to the reusable ice cream container, it took 2 years. The majority of the wine industry can move over to, I believe it's just 7 formats. 75% of the wine by volume can move to within 7 formats without changing their current production line. So they could change tomorrow. So there's a real opportunity for adoption within the wine space that I think is really unique. The second part about it is I think that wine is uniquely affected by climate change. It's an agricultural product where the producer is the brand that sits all the way through the process, which is really unique to wine. And that producer is so greatly affected by climate change that you're seeing a lot more interest in the industry. And so we've been blown away kind of by the interest within the wine industry and the support that we've seen so far. And I think that as those systems grow and as those networks grow, the more locations that are accepting returns, the easier it will be to get players on board and participating. So wine is not just uniquely positioned, it's actually, there's a unique interest in that space as well too.
Yeah, well, there's still a road to go.
Yeah.
So, sure. Yes. So we are moving quite fast to our end of our talk, and I'm going to make two questions that I will ask to briefly answer. So Valentina, what are your future objectives? On what projects do you have in mind?
We're working very hard in the concept that Zach mentioned before. This is not only about, because today we have managed using recycling or compost or reuse of the different materials, and it's 98%, okay? But we have a 2%, which is very, very, very difficult, and it's food waste, because we have different locations and they are small amounts in very, in very different areas. So this is something that is not only about, recycling. Is a new concept that people have to understand, that waste can generate, life. When you create, soil, you can create soil with the waste. So this is something that we have to take in place in the different locations, and it's very, it's a very cultural change that we have to make when we talk about food waste, because sometimes we take a lot of care of things like plastic or different other materials, but in the landfill we have to consider that 80% of the waste that is going to a landfill is organic waste. So we should be able to stop that, to create value before the organic material goes to the landfill. So that's something that we are working very hard on. And the other thing is the concept for the future years is the concept of upcycling for the materials. We don't have to think of, a PET bottle to use it as a PET bottle again. We have to think, we have challenged ourselves to have initiatives in order to make them a second life with a greater value than the one they had before. Okay, that's why we are doing things like working in the PET liner, creating a dishwasher packaging, or this is something that we have an initiative in the with another company, or also creating this new floor with also with an entrepreneur, which is we are giving them, you know, the raw material for him to you know, create this new kind of material, which will be considered, I am sure it will be considered like a you know, a superfood in the future, because it has a lot of different properties and you need a very small amount. Or working in these other things, like creating more value for the bottles that we are not using anymore, creating glasses, or you don't need to make a new bottle. You can work and do things with a higher value than the one they had before. And this is something that we want to push hard, avoiding food waste and upcycling of different materials, because we think, and also there is a lot of different entrepreneurs that are, you know, waiting for opportunities like this.
Yeah, just before going to Rosa and answering a question that Ken Pogash put on the question and answer folder regarding and asking about what kind of assistance can we provide to small wine producers. So regarding my point of view, there are some practices that small producers can develop, that biogas equipment, it's not that expensive. If you have a look at the Google, you can find it. But there are also several solutions that it requires some political action, or at least local authorities actions, trying to develop some networks of trying to get the pomace, put it on cosmetic industries, and then take it to the antioxidants. So that can exist. That demands some movement from the local authorities, of course. And probably that can also work as the lease and the pomace recovery. So it's just a matter of developing the cooperatives that Valentina told us. It's a matter of building it. So Rosa, is there any top secret from the future, or do you have any product in mind that you can share to us in the future?
I answer only with our dream. We would like to obtain a wine without other additive. And in this case, the most important part for the production and obtain the good wine pass in our idea, in more point in extraction of other kind of different kind of product from the byproduct. And in this case, we can obtain a completely perfect circular economy in our wine production. This is in that moment our dream, in order to declare completely free additive of our wine line.
Okay, so, and we are really finishing. I'm just going to ask my guests to share their PowerPoint that Marta asked us to develop. Does anyone want to start?
Okay. In this case, there are a lot of other type of projects for the future, because the first part come from the recovery of CO2, and then in a system, a real system for the soil preservation, not only with amendment, but also with other type of improving. Then we are going to prepare many projects with the transformation of our sludge in PHA. And in this case, we are going to match that product in agricultural system, like in the same matter of Valentina, in the same matter of implementation in agri-food sector. Then an important point of our supply chain is the logistic point. And in this case, we have many projects in order to reduce the impact in our LCAs. And in this case, we are going to improve many agreements with our partner in order to reduce the impact of the logistic. In this case, the last project we are going to improve is the LNG powered vehicle with our LNG.
Okay, Valentina, do you want to share with us? I'm going to ask to be brief, please.
Yes, I mean, Miguel, I think what I wanted to share was the pictures that I showed you before, because it gives you the physical idea, but sometimes it's very difficult to imagine what are we talking about. But I just want to leave you with a final idea, and I think that in this case, the topic that we are talking, which is circular innovation, is something that you cannot disconnect from radical collaboration. For me, those are topics that goes together, because it's the only way, I think, that you can actually make the innovation circular, make it move. In order to make it move, it has to be connected with radical collaboration.
Okay, Zach, do you want to share with us something or a final idea? You're muted, Zach.
We don't have a PowerPoint that we put together on. I know we're kind of running over, so I'll just be brief. But yeah, if there's any producers or anyone who is interested in participating with in the reusable commerce and reusing their wine bottles, you can visit our website, thegoodgoods.co, not com.co, and submit a form under the producer page to contact us, and we'd love to chat with anybody who's interested in kind of joining the movement towards reusable wine bottles.
Okay, just before going back to Marta, I'm going to share my 3 bullets and with some picture of our work in our region. So as far as we understood from this talk, we have solutions for all wineries. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. It's clear a need for awareness and dissemination and consumers, and really probably the most important, it needs to cooperate and act. We need to do something. We don't need to invent nothing. We don't need to develop nothing. We just need to do it. So Marta, I think you are happy with us.
I am happy with you, but I'll just ask you to stop sharing now. Okay. I am very happy with you. I'm just going to ask one question that has to do with Zach's project, but I'm going to ask to Valentina and Rosa, because they represent 2 of the major wine consumer markets and wine production markets in the world. Zach is presenting us here one of the various refillable, reusable bottle schemes that are appearing and that are addressing one of the main issues in wine production, as we mentioned, which is the weight of carbon of glass packaging in the wine in the carbon footprint. Can you see this as a trend in your markets in Italy and Chile? And in your companies as well, by the way. Valentina, okay, go on.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I think actually there is a lot of companies that are using that kind of model here in Chile, not for wine today, but for some other, food or pasta or rice. They are using that kind of model. I think is something that the consumer of the future, the post-pandemic consumer, I think is going to be very willing to do. But I think there is something that we must consider, which is the quality of the wine that you cannot lose during that process, because it's different when you work with some product like, rice. Even if you have, an open space and so on, it's not going to change the quality of the wine. So I think that's, I think it's something critical. It's not something that you cannot achieve, but it's something that is critical when you want to talk about a good quality wine. You have to be sure to make that link in a very proper way. But I think it's really, really important because, as Zach said, today, mainly the carbon footprint, around 1/3 of the carbon footprint of a bottle of wine comes from the glass. So if you can reuse that kind of material, you will be doing or generating a positive impact in climate change immediately.
Yeah.
So it's something that is, I think, is very interesting. It's something that is going to be very possible in the near future.
In the near future, okay, that's exactly what I was going to ask. If it's something for the future, when is that future? And Rosa?
In our cases, we have a long time of a partnership with the Tetra Pak. And in this case, our first product for volume and the most famous product is Tavernello, and it is in Tetra Pak. That is, I think, in that moment, the real small system with the small quantity of LCA in all type of packing in wine in the world, because it is really different from the glasses. In particular, because the process of transformation of the paper is completely different from the glasses. And then when you prepare the truck, you have the completely full truck. And in this case, you reduce also the impact of the logistic. But for the customer, that is the difficult point in order to know why it is equal quality in terms of shelf life of the wine, but completely different in for the eyes, for the watching. But I think the Tetra Pak system is the better system for the shelf life of the wine, and also for the future, for the reducing to the LCA of our entire process, in order to reduce the use of energy and also resources.
So what you mean is you think Tetra Pak is a better solution than reusable?
I think yes, because
okay.
In that case, all the paper in Tetra Pak come back in a paper line. And in this case, we can put in place a completely recovery system of the paper. I think also that for the customer, the idea of the glass is completely different from the Tetra Pak. And in this case, the reuse is, in my opinion, the first point for the future. But both are
options.
Exactly.
Okay. Miguel, I almost forgot that Portugal has the highest consumption of wine per capita, and I forgetting to ask you the question. And we have a note here from Natasha, from actually a business in the UK, Borough Wines and Sustainable Wines UK, that has been doing this, that they have wine on tap. This is not publicity, this is a member of ours, and it's worth mentioning. And they say, answering to Valentina, because they do have this system of reusable bottles as well. And it's a question of winemaker agreeing to quality control. Just to mention that what Natasha was answering, actually Valentina. And now Miguel, we know we don't have this in Portugal. We've actually sent the challenge to a store in Lisbon, but do you think there is potential for reusable bottles in Portugal?
Well, it's not an easy question. You know, here in Portugal, we use a lot those bag-in-boxes packages that 5 liters or 3 liters, that usually people have at home and gradually go in drinking. But I think there are 2 main obstacles to go. First, of course, is from the retails, and of course, the second one is from the consumers. Consumers sometimes they really like to buy a new thing, you know, to have new, to grab from the shelf and take it home. So sometimes to invite them to wash their bottles, to refill it, to put some sort of a screw cap and then go home. Let's make some brackets in here. That screw caps in Portugal, they are really not good invite. They are really not really seen, because we are really a cork producers, and for us wine is with cork, not with screw caps. But I think if we try to aim from younger generations to young people that probably they are more aware of these environmental issues, that could be a way to start, you know, and after starting,
Yes.
It's a question of time, I think. I really believe on that.
All right, guys, sorry to have, but I really wanted to ask this question. I thought it was we have 3 important markets here, well, 4 with the US, 4 huge markets in terms of wine consumption and production. So it was worth understanding how this trend is evolving, because at the end of the day, the bottle still is the elephant in the room, and let's not forget that. So I think we've seen examples from soil to zip, from soil to glass in this table. I think we've been able to prove also through the examples we brought that a language that everyone understands, because we are talking about businesses, is that looking at your business in a circular approach makes business sense, because it's a way, and sorry to put it this way, of also making money with the waste that you're generating and not having to worry about what you're going to do with it. Once you're not producing waste, that's something less in your checklist that you have to worry about. And it makes, above all, we're facing the biggest challenge we are facing as a species, which is the climate crisis, and we need to address it. What we have today here is one of the potential solutions, which is circular innovation, circular economy. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with one of the topics that we've been repeating every 3 months, the business sense of internalizing climate change. We'll be bringing actually another member from Italy, a company called Salcete, which is we only bring you inspiring people, you know that. So Salcete is an amazing example. Actually, they also have some circular examples that we'll be asking for them to share with us in the future. Michele Manelli, we have from France, Chêne Bleu with the Nicole Sierra Rollet. And we have another amazing example from the UK, actually from an Australian company with Caroline Thompson-Hill from Accolade Wines, that will also be bringing examples on what they're doing to address climate change. In fact, they're also addressing the bottle issue with Garson wine bottles, another member of ours. We have to speak of our members anyway. So Zach, Rosa, Valentina, thank you and Miguel, that was here, not just as a host. Thank you so much for being here today. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope our audience enjoyed it as well. All the information that has been shared with us by Valentina and Rosa, and in the future also by Zach, will be sharing an article on reusable bottles that just came out yesterday, if I'm not wrong. And also a report will be built on this climate talk by a partnership we have with International Vintage Master. That is all for today. Thank you again for being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.